Well, welcome everybody to another high impact, high takeaway value episode of how outsourcing and AI works for small to medium businesses. They're all focused on the whole world of automating and delegating, and super excited. Got Steve Heroux here, who's going to be an amazing guest for us today. But as always, we promise right up front, before we talk about either of us, to get you some value. We're all trying to turn over rocks for the latest tool, podcast resources out there. So I always kick these episodes off with having my guest and myself kind of share the latest that we've been taking in out there, maybe a resource you haven't heard of that can add value. So I'll kick it to Steve first to share with the audience what you've been digging into lately.
Couple things, man. I guess on the podcast front, I like Brene Brown's Dare to Lead, my OG podcast that I've just learned so much from, or Tom and Lisa Bill use Impact Theory. So podcast, that's got to be it. Books, right, other than mine, which thanks for reading. I appreciate the 12 cents that I made from you buying it. I would say The End of Average by Todd Rose. That was a game changer for me.
Wow.
And I got turned on to that by our COO, Brady. And it talks about and embodies the one size fits none philosophy, right, that I hold so dear. So I would recommend that book highly, Todd Rose, The End of Average. And then a tool, which is, you and I talk so much about content and building content and thought leadership. There's an app called BigView. It's a teleprompter app. So you just type in your script, and you can see it scrolls just like a teleprompter on your iPhone or whatever. And it's cheap. It's like $100 or something. So BigView is awesome. So you want to get better at content, and obviously you don't do this. So practice before you use it.
Fantastic. Well, everybody out there is creating tons of content, and as you and I were talking about at the beginning of this, more than ever, you got to create high quality, no like trust, great content, and any tools that help in that journey, certainly. Awesome. Those are great shares. And I'll share on my end. I was just actually sharing with Steve, if you're looking at going down the whole like YouTube path, and it's one on the periphery for me, because frankly, I just wasn't one that watched a ton of YouTube, frankly. But I know I need to be there. And so we're going crazy deep in it. And I'll say Sean Carell, that has a YouTube channel called Think Media. Fantastic, just outstanding educational content on how to leverage and build a YouTube channel. His most recent interview he did with Dan Martell was phenomenal, and just talking about the shift of what's going on. Dan Martell talks about going pro. For 8 years he did tons of content and so forth, and never kind of got major traction. 2 years ago said, you know what, I want to go pro. I'm no longer going to do videos for marketing. I'm going to be doing it for content and media as a production. And just made.
How do you spell that guy's name? Sean
Carell, Carell, I think.
Like S-E-A-N or S-H-A-W?
S-E-A-N. Yeah. Okay. S-E-A-N. Listeners. Sorry, Sean. I'll know your name next time if you hear this. I know Sean Carell. I think it's two L's in the end of it. Yeah. But really, really great content, high value. Think Media, and then Think Media podcast. Fantastic. And on the book front, I've been digging back into some kind of oldies but goodies on the leadership side of things. And I shared last time the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by
Maxwell.
By Mr. Maxwell, fantastic, author. But going back to, and a lot of you is Jim Collins, right? And Great by Choice. Can't say enough about Great by Choice in terms of talking about the exact characteristics that made absolute phenomenal leaders. In all the companies. I mean, I love the fact he puts in a decade of research and just finding those particularly unique characteristics. And, one of the characteristics he talks about a great leader is this productive paranoia, right? At the end of the day, you got to have, a little bit of productive, paranoia about what's going on, particularly now more than ever. AI is eating folks' lunch that aren't getting engaged and are sticking their head in the sand. So encourage you to revisit Great by Choice on his website. He has all his concepts tied up into the map on jimcollins.com. Those are kind of the top two, kind of top of mind that I'd love to share with everybody today. So nothing else, you got to get resources you can kind of jump into and check out. So now to my guest, Steve. And as you guys know, the whole purpose of this hot podcast and this messaging is, look, when it comes to outsourcing and AI, right, we're beyond top of funnel. People know that this world exists, that they know offshore, virtual assistants, outsourcing, AI, right? But the question is like, how does this actually work, right? Like, how do I actually apply this in my business? And it's those specific case studies and examples that really help us really kind of take the thinking to the next step. And, even if your business is in the same industry as Steve, which we'll talk about here, hope you'll get some ideas of practical application. And so that's what I like to do with our guests is, kick off with some great tools and resources, but then get right into some specific examples. First of all, kind of concerns about going down this journey. And then secondly, to be able to share some specific examples of how Steve's been able to apply it in his business. And we've had the pleasure of working with him at Outsource Access, been a client of ours here. And again, as you guys know, I advocate for this whole journey. There's tons of great companies out there, but obviously folks that we work with, we have a direct connection with and love to hear their journeys and their paths. So thanks, Steve, for being on here. So give everybody the elevator on kind of your background and your world and what brought us together here.
Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome so far. And I just had a call with Nico this morning, and as a self-proclaimed thought leader and author, the Sales Contrarian is quite a different brand that people have not heard of, and so many of us have been taught these old school tactics and techniques, and all these clowns on social media with the fake stutters and ruffle your papers, and it's all about the tone. Like, these clowns wouldn't last a second in any professional business sales setting. And so we've got to just tell it to people straight. And so the book's doing great. Thanks again. Appreciate that. And the course is coming out in September, which it's a lot of work, right? To create new content, new coursework and things like that. And was one of the reasons that we got connected through our mutual friend Jabez. And Nico's been such a humongous part of that, because there's a lot of post-production that goes into it. So having somebody to review all the content that's been recorded, all the editing that's been done, and catching, again, little things, there's 2 commas, or this didn't show right, or the lighting's wrong. And there's no way I would have the time to do all that stuff. So I can't even quantify how much time and money that has saved me. And, being my own editor, I just don't have the bandwidth to do that. We're working on a downloadable workbook that goes along with the course, which he's done a great job helping me craft and create. And this morning on our call, we were talking about branding and using Canva in the design work. And he came up with amazing designs for not only the workbook, but also for one of the assets, which is a daily 100 we've talked about, right? Creating daily performance indicators. So I'm really pleasantly surprised with, the skill level, because most people think, oh, a VA and EA, maybe they're just going to do grunt work or do administrative or book my flights or whatever. That's not what it's like. I mean, he's been great. And for this kind of work, I had always expected I would have had to have somebody full-time or pay somebody $5 or $6 grand a month or whatever. So it's been great. He does a great job, very good at communication. And there's a ton of other things we're doing, building lists for contacts, building lists for podcasts, building lists for speaker bureaus that I'm going to reach out to, building lists of awards that people have won that I'm going to now reach out to. So there's just so many things he's been able to help me with that way above and beyond expectation.
Well, I appreciate the share, man. And it's, again, that's, the journey people go down this path is, what are the capabilities? What can they actually do? Can they interact? They're going to be able to have calls with me. And that's what people are surprised with. I mean, having calls, great interaction, bringing ideas to the table. It's not just kind of this robot that's just like doing administrative low-level functions. They can bring ideas to the table. And one thing we're fanatical about at Outsource Access is, always focusing on training and development and building their skill sets, in different tools and resources. We'll say if you go down this path, you go to hire directly through a job board, or you go through, a firm that's supporting you, is like really ask, what is the training and resources they're providing? Because I mean, ideally, we'll find people that have some background and experience, but then it's always about ongoing development training. And when it comes to AI tools and technology tools, I mean, Canva exploded on the screen, the scene overnight. And so it's being able to keep up with the latest tools and resources, and particularly on the AI front, as well. So those are some great initial, examples to share. And so back up, I mean, we'll have kind of your bio and everything in the show notes and everything, but share with everybody real quick. I mean, because it's incredibly powerful what Steve does. Just share a little bit, about the Sales Collective and the Sales Contrarian, just kind of your journey that led to, and what he started off, you're talking about is this book that he's put out in the course. And that's how he engaged with us, is getting a, VA to support him with getting that content finalized, getting the course done, getting the promotion out, getting speaking opportunities. And we'll dive into some more of the specific examples there, but we'd love the audience to have a little more context about you and your background. And I'll throw your website up here in the background as we kind of run through it, both the Sales Collective and the Contrarian.
Yeah, it's funny. I told this story on a different podcast last week, and they're like, "You had that Cutco story, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." So many of you know what Cutco knives are. So I started my sales journey selling Cutco knives when I was 18 and didn't, say a word, right, the first 18 years of my life, and end up selling Cutco knives and becoming the #1 Cutco rep in the country my senior year. And then, ran sales teams for them very successfully. Went on to a career in insurance, went to work for the company with the duck that's based in Brad's home state.
That's right.
Many of you know Aflac. So spent 13 years there. Middle of my career, for some reason, somehow 60,000 agents did worse than me. So I've had some success in that world. And when I left Aflac, I wanted to build a company that helps salespeople learn how to sell with integrity and honesty and humility. And so that's when we started the Sales Collective. And now, we work with so many different companies and clients around the country and North America, and helping them revitalize their entire go-to-market strategy for sales, whether it's building sales processes, whether it's helping them find great sales talent, whether it's coaching and leading their sales managers, or whether it's straight up training and development of their salespeople. And on the speaking circuit, it's been pretty crazy being able to do, hundreds of Vistage talks and, EO talks and so many other places where we can spread.
How many Vistage talks have you done? I think you're telling me.
I think about 400.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
incredible.
And our team is amazing, and we have such a great support system and talent level at the Sales Collective. And, when we say we're going to help someone build a sales process, like, that's Orlando's role. Like, he's the savant. All he does is build sales processes. When we have a client that wants to hire a great salesperson, that's Tabitha. That's all she does all day long. That's her expertise. And Robin's expertise is sales training, and Sean's expertise is sales leadership training. And so we're not this one size fits all. Oh, I can do everything as a sales consultant. It's we know the things we're good at, and we put people in position to show off their superpowers. And so that's what I love the most about what we do, is giving people a completely different spin on how sales should be done. And, we sure as hell don't teach the, here's your quota, Tim. And if you don't hit it, we got these goals we made up. Like, we don't do that crap. So it's just been pretty awesome to give people a totally different perspective on the sales world, hence, right, the Sales Contrarian and the things that I'm doing on that side to help draw more attention to what we do as a company.
Yeah, and it's and Steve and I, again, we shout out to Jabez Lebret, again, shout out to EO Entrepreneurs Organization, just continues to pay dividends in my life. Been a part of it 15 years, that and YPO, and Jabez and I met in EO a number of years ago. And it was actually on a Facebook post that Jabez had posted about Steve's book, and ended up commenting on a Facebook post. And before you know it, got connected. And then I started listening to his book on a run, and I did a video and sharing it. And, cool to see how kind of things, shape up and come together. And Jabez is actually doing a bunch of speaking and stuff on this topic with Steve as well. We were talking about when I was interviewing him.
And he's our second speaker. If you didn't know, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
Jabez does a lot of the overflow and talks that I can't give. And I've been looking for somebody for a couple of years and got reconnected with Jabez, and he's doing an amazing job. And so, to have a 1B to my 1A who does amazing work with our content is just incredible.
Learn how to outsource your speaking. That's what I've learned from Steve, is to be able to go find a doppelganger that you can actually have go out. That's the biggest constraint point, for a lot of you haven't thought it's possible. And I've done the same, because we kicked off our business at Outsource Access with me speaking all over the country. And I think I spoke for 90 EO chapters and YPO and EO and some Vistage chapters. And, being able to kind of find somebody that can deliver your content. And I mean, honestly, you're one of the first people I think I've run across that's actually done that effectively in finding someone that can deliver your content and scale, speaking. So kudos for making that happen. So yeah, as you guys can see on the website, we'll go put on the show notes, but anything related to training, leadership training process and hiring. And then, so take us into the Sales Contrarian. So this is the book, and this kind of led to engaging the VA, and we kind of dive in a little bit more with Nico and what he's doing to help you kind of get this out there. So kind of tell us where you are with this.
Yeah, I mean, the impetus behind this, as I mentioned, again, there's so much information out there in the sales world that it just exacerbates the perception of salespeople. And you probably know this, but there are 3 professions on this planet that are the least trusted: salespeople, politicians, and attorneys. And the reason that keeps happening is because all of this old school, antiquated garbage that they're being taught. And you also know this in the social media world. If you just spend 5 million a month, you are now an expert, right? And, people forget about all the stuff that these idiots did in their past life, right? All the lawsuits that were filed against them, all the court cases they've been a part of, all the companies that they've sold for that are out of business or fined. You forget about all that because they make some stupid video. So, teaching people that you can be effective in sales without some manipulative technique or some, magic book of questions, or here's the foolproof objection handling frameworks and all of this stuff, is what is making it worse for consumers, because now they've got a whole new list of these armies of idiots out there propagating this BS. And so I wanted to teach people that you can sell the right way. And I'm so happy, like the responses we've gotten from people getting the book in different countries, and the reviews on Amazon. I don't even know half these people, and the emails and the LinkedIn messages. It's like, you never know who you're going to impact. You just never know. And whether I sell 1 book or 1 million, it doesn't matter. One person who thinks of sales in a different way now, that's a win for me. And so I wanted to provide content in that ilk, especially in the individual side, because there's not a lot out there for people on the individual side of sales training. Again, you have all the clowns on social media and the creepy uncle. There's a lot of stuff that I just was repulsed by. And one of my inspirations is Vin Jiang. You probably know Vin, right?
No.
You know Vin? Vin is amazing. Vin is a public speaking communications coach. And if y'all don't know him, I think it's VINH, right? He's a Vietnamese guy, GIANG. And Vin is a Vietnamese guy with an Australian accent, right? So I got turned on to him, and I was like, this dude could tell me my house fucking burned down and I lost everything I owned. And I would be like, dude, that is so cool, right? Like, I just want to listen to him talk, and he's just great. And so I built Contrarian Selling sort of similarly to him. The background's a little bit similar in a studio. It's just, I'm excited because the feedback I've already gotten from people are like, where's this been all my life? And so that's really what drives me.
Well, it's, at the end of the day, the most successful, individuals have got a bigger why. And, whether you get 1 or whether you get 1 million customers at the end of the day, I mean, obviously you got to give you more than 1 to put food on the table, but when it comes to driving results, it's about passion. And for me, I know that's why I'm this current company with Outsource Access. I mean, grew to 500 employees in 4.5 years, and biggest, company I've had is because the passion factor is there of, to the point of, even on our podcast, I've helped 4 people launch their own companies in the Philippines to be competitors of mine, because I have an abundance mentality, just because I believe in the impact of what it does, and bringing kind of scale and ability and opportunities to people in this country that they never would have, had. And so, similar to you, right? It's at the end of the day, and sales, people don't think sales we're doing in all of our life, right? I mean, my 9-year-old is selling me on going to Disney World at any given time. My wife is already pre-selling me on getting a second Australian Labradoodle, right? And it starts off 6 months. I already know her technique. She starts top of funnel, then she starts dripping. And then I start, well, hey, they just had a new litter. You just want to go take a look at them and so forth. And so it's something we're all doing in life at any given time. And so it's a good technique and skill to learn, regardless. So, well, appreciate you sharing. And it's, there's tons of great content and the book is fantastic. So shifting gears back to, kind of got the book launched, and that's kind of where a lot of your focus want to be. Now you got Jabez doing all your speaking for you, right? So
I wish. Yeah, Jabez wanted to do more. Yeah, I'm still at 85 dates, so I would like to get that a little bit lower. So,
but the Sales Contrarian book, right? So getting the book out there, getting that out, and selling the book itself, and then being able to generate speaking opportunities related to it, and then the course, right? So then that kind of intersected. You're in a place where, hey, I've got to scale myself and get this content out there in a larger, more significant kind of way. So I guess sort of kind of dive in. So you shared some of the things that, Nico, kind of VA from Outsource Access, that's been, supporting Steve. But any other specific tactical things that you can kind of share that he's been doing for you? So you talked about helping to create graphics and content for you with the course, and getting the visuals and the graphics nailed down. He's been helped to generate and data scrape lists for you for speaking opportunities, which one of my favorite things I love having my VAs do for me as well, is data scrape lists and do outreach and manage my LinkedIn account. Any other nitty gritty kind of tactical things?
I mean, upcoming will be that managing the accounts, the social media stuff, the YouTube is, creating all the content. I've got a lot that I've done. Now it's about deploying the content strategically, and, when and how and all those things that he can also manage, which is another huge help. There are companies who just do that cost more than having a VA, right? So that's a huge advantage to basically have somebody that can do 2 or 3 roles, right, that I need completed for a third or a fifth of what I would have to pay somebody else to do. So, and I'm sure there's more things I'm even leaving out. We have a whole list of stuff we haven't even gotten to yet. But
it's creating that runway, right? And we kind of talk about, in this whole journey, and I think we kind of shared with you kind of that 2-question exercise process, right? And it's super simple, but in essence, it's like the constraints for any growth, whether it's a small, 2-3 person or larger. I mean, we did this with a, $250-300 million pharmacy, and the CEO's like, just those 2 questions. I'm like, yeah. Send it to all your managers. What are you doing that you don't think is the best use of your time? And how many hours per month are you spending on it? Right. Yeah. And we encourage, because a lot of people, they start that process and they're like, yeah, but that doesn't take that much time. I won't put that on the list. And no, I'm like, no, take a minute and put a pencil to it. And it is amazing in a month, like how it can add up. Or like, man, I spend 6 hours a month, like following up on XYZ. And then that second question is, what are the things that you want to be doing that you're not getting to, right? Due to time, money, or knowledge constraints, whether it's through in your department of where you sit, or a lot of times, people are seeing things in other departments. They're like, yeah, we ought to be doing XYZ, but we're not doing it. And that just creates a whole runway of constraint points that you can end up, engaging these resources. And I appreciate you sharing, right? And again, going down this path, don't be limited by thinking like, oh, I can only get somebody to do social media, or somebody that can only do bookkeeping. We got a client of ours, the video production company, and their one VA is doing logistics and coordinating their client meetings. He's doing all their bookkeeping and accounting, and she's doing their social media graphic design, and doing receivables, right? At the end of the day, if you think about all this stuff, none of it individually is rocket science per se. It's process-driven types of things that, a bright person that is a fast learner, good communicator, and can take feedback, which are the skills that we look for, can kind of embrace. And then they document, right, all those processes so that you're kind of having that captured in a playbook, so you got the redundancy.
The other thing too that is important, I don't know, I'm sure it's all of your VAs, but like Nico's so good at what he does, and then he's like, okay, I'm done with this. What else, right? Which, it's funny, it's the opposite of, the Peter Gibbons mentality of working just hard enough not to get fired, right? It's like he's like, what else do you need? What else can I do, right? It's like wanting more stuff to learn and to get better, and he's, you could teach me stuff. It's just been, it's been great.
Yeah. The hunger and desire to learn, and that's part of whether, we're talking about the Philippines, and, I chose that path for, you don't have the culture gap you have in a lot of other countries, and, Americanized culture and so forth. But, in a lot of the other countries that you can kind of engage, it's a work ethic, because it's an opportunity and access to a career path. And, that's what we love. We incorporated there so we could hire everybody's full-time employees, to pay their health insurance, to pay their benefits, to be able to give them a career path and opportunity. And so they're hungry to keep it, right? And
the whole team knows that. Everybody I've worked with, the support team and Marie and all of them, like, you could see that, right? They're on the ball. They respond quickly. They never miss meeting. Like, they're, it's just run really well. So awesome job.
I appreciate it, man. Let's, and again, there's a lot of great firms that are out there, and I'll share with you guys kind of we'll probably pop it up on the screen here. We'll kind of interject it, kind of the top 10 questions, just like any of your industries, right? Any of you that are in business and so forth, it's like, what should they be looking for, when they're going down this path? We'll send kind of top 10 questions we'd recommend. Things like, are they incorporated? Do they pay them full time, right? Are they providing leadership and development, growth and training? There's just a checklist of things to kind of run through, if you're going to kind of go down this, down this path. So, well, it's exciting to hear this content coming in. So what's the release date and time frame? So we're sitting here July, the filming here.
Yeah,
so
it's supposed to be September 1st. So everything's on track for that. But again, it could be September 15th, but Contrarian Selling will be out in September.
And so it's going to goes along with the book. So it's going to be a course that's going to complement the book.
Yeah.
And so as far as the module creation, so you're basically turning the components of your philosophy into a multi-module, like how many modules are going to be on the course?
There's 14 total.
So 14 total modules.
Yeah.
And so Nico's kind of working side by side with you on helping get the final pieces created.
The workbook was a big thing in helping, what do we want the workbook to be, right? That accompanies, the course, because sometimes you just want to go through a course and just listen or watch, and you don't really take notes or nothing goes along with it. So we built a specific workbook to go along, right, with each of the modules and in specific chapters. And what's your best takeaway, and what's the big idea, and what are you going to challenge yourself to do? And so this whole section that we built for each section and each lesson and each chapter, and the layout. And so it's been really great. We've been working on it for a month because I want it to be as close to perfect as possible. And he's had some suggestions we added in that I didn't have before. And so a lot of the work to make sure that everything aligns. He's really good with the brand and understanding the brand colors and understanding the design work, and which I didn't realize that he had that skill set. Again, changing some assets around, making sure the logo's in the right spots. And it was just really cool because he gave me 4 or 5 designs of what the cover of the workbook should be. And then 4 or 5 designs on what the pages of each of the workbook should be in the PDF, right? So I was just really pleasantly surprised, by that.
And that's, when I encourage anybody, I can tell you how great all this stuff is, and Steve can tell you how great it is and so forth, and going down this journey. And look, it has its challenges and so forth, but it's once you learn how to communicate as well, which is another thing, like knowing how to use Loom and how to communicate, with the resources that you're using. But you just got to begin the journey, right? And it doesn't make a difference what other people say. It's not until you get that first experience back, like what you did, right? Where all of a sudden, like, he did something and then he took the thinking to the next level, or he got completed and wanted to know what else could I do, or surprised you by, we had one client that was in the commercial real estate space, and he hired, one of our staff. He has a bunch of commercial real estate and kind of lower end hotels, for, in construction and so forth, for people that are kind of transitory teams. And so he hired one of our staff to take over a manual process that one of his people were doing on posting on Craigslist, the availability of all these. And our VA went and researched on YouTube and found out how to write code to automatically post it to all these Craigslist platforms. So we got so many great stories because it's about, taking the thinking to the next level and helping add more value. And you'll actually see this coming down the pike. We've actually, we're a whole Google workspace house and, enterprise workspace. And so we're launching a Gemini custom gem that can actually take every client's industry and then project a whole nother layer of things that we can do for them with ROI by task.
Nice.
So it's another good way you can kind of brainstorm, kind of where they can support you in the process. So, well, man, it's gonna be exciting. Appreciate the impact you're having out there. And I go check out with Steve. Steve Heroux, you can go, obviously I shared his kind of LinkedIn there, but you can go to thesalescollective.com, thesalescontrarian.com, where his book is. If you've got organizations looking for someone to speak, I mean, Steve just spoke at the EOS conference and was one of the highest rated at the EOS conference, 400 Vistage events. So it's an honor to have him on our podcast. But if you're an organization looking for someone to come speak, couldn't ask for a better resource. Is there any particular place otherwise aside from the websites for folks to go or any?
That's great. Yeah, those are the main ones. And, I'm on LinkedIn a lot like you, and, upcoming stuff, YouTube and all the other cool things we got to do to keep changing the way that people look at sales. My whole, mantra.
Well, we'll get Nico to help you on that journey next. We'll get him to teach you the LinkedIn Live kind of process. Actually,
we're going to talk about that too. So.
Well, that's one of the fun things. Like, I mean, everything that we're doing to grow our business and content and strategy, like we turned into a process and then share it to all of our clients because a lot of them want to do the same things to kind of grow their business. So if you guys want to learn more about us, you can go to outsourceaccess.com and see all the content and videos and everything that we have. And one of the resources that we've got is I've mentioned that 2-question exercise. And so you can go to our website and book a call and kind of learn more about, do a free discovery session. If you want to shoot an email to tools, TOOLS at outsourceaccess.com. And put Steve in the subject line in honor of Steve here. We'll know kind of where it came from, but we'll send you this link to this template that we have that has a quick instructional video, has a list of 700 tasks. We've done over 4 million hours of work. And so this is 700 tasks in marketing, operation, and sales you can scale through. And there's an interactive place where you can do the 2-question exercise yourself or with your team to kind of create your initial runway of constraint challenges. And you can book a call. We'd be happy to go through it with you and use one of our tools to immediately turn it into some tasks and opportunities to support you. So, well, I know Steve's got to run here. He's got a vehicle situation we were talking about ahead of time. He's got to run out in California. So you got to get on it when it comes to the vehicle. So
yes, sir. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Brad, for all the hard work and help with everything. So
yeah, man, I'm super excited. A lot to explore on things moving ahead. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. See y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.